Hi guys, Bolt here once again. Two new battle groups have been added to WARNO. One of them is the 119th Guard, which now houses all of the TADUDs you previously had in the 79th, and you also have a couple more TADUs to play with. So it's a really interesting battle group. And second, we have the US. We have the Cavalry, 11th Cavalry. Really interesting. Lots of M1A1s. There's even M1A1 Recon tanks. So we're going to dive into one of these and just kind of go through some of the units that have been added and see what kind of units we got to play with. So logistics, I'm not really going to stick around here for too long, but you got plenty amount of choices in terms of logistics and command units, also a fob of course. The infantry is a really interesting one. So you have the Panzer Grenadiers with the Martyrs, Martyr 1A3 at your disposal. Now these are 5-man squads, so they're not the best, but you know, if you want, you can get some 5 front armor Martyrs in your battle group, and you can also go for the Martyr 1A3 Milan, which gives you 5 ATGMs to play with. It's actually not too bad, especially since most of the American battle groups lack IFVs. I think it's a nice kind of a nice treat to have these guys. You also have Heimatschützen, basically just reserve units. We have 50 cal squads, which is nice to see. They're really good. More engineer leader units. We have regular engineers with satchel charges, engineers with the flash. You can get 9 per card, and 6 if you upvet them slightly. They do come in Humvees or only in 113s. Okay, so you don't really get any other IFE except for the Martyrs that you get. Now you have engineer dragon teams. Not the best, to be honest. 10-man squads. They are shock trained, so you know, that is a nice thing. But the ATGM on them are just really, really bad. But this is really just, you know, if you need to depend on these guys, you're kind of screwed in general. I'm gonna be honest with you. But yeah, they also come in Humvees and M113s. Aero rifles, pretty cool to see these. Basically in all of the US battle groups. So it's in the 3rd Armored, the Mechanized, the 11th Cavalry, and also the 82nd. So these guys are kind of like, you know, the universal infantry in the American battle group, so it's kind of nice to see these guys. M16s, M60s, and the M72 Law. Really not a good anti-tank weapon, but, you know, better than nothing, I guess. And they come in the Blackhawk, so that's kind of nice. Now, mech rifles Law, now it gets a little bit more interesting. M16s and 3 M249s, together with the M72 Law. It's mainly about this, right here. It's kind of insane to have 3 M249s blasting away at you. You can get these guys in the M113 with the 50, or with the M113 with the 50 and the M47 Dragon. Not the Dragon 2, the base Dragon. So the same thing that, same weapon that these units have. Other than that, now here's a new unit, the Dismount Troopers. Really interesting units. 6-man team, 3 M249s, and also the 84, but they are security units. Okay. The security line infantry unit is only lightly equipped for combat, tasked instead with patrolling and securing the rear. These soldiers guard against enemy saboteurs and infiltration attempts. Security units increase their optics and ID levels to good when not moving, and they are normal right now, and they have good stealth too. Which is kind of universal, but still. Yeah, it's interesting to have these units, but I do feel like they're good in terms of stats. Okay, really good in terms of stats. Half the squad literally carries a machine gun, which is really interesting. But the thing about this squad is that it's really expensive to be used as security infantry. I feel like I would rather use these on the front line and see how they do, instead of, you know, having them on the flank just chilling there. Because the 84 that this squad has really is the best anti-tank weapon that you have. Because even the Panzer Grenadiers only have the Panzerfaust 44. You know, the Law is arguably... well, it is actually worse. So that is really the only good unit with decent anti-tank weapons that you have, so it's kind of interesting. Now artillery, nothing too special. We have some mortars. We have the M109A2 and the M109A3. The only difference is the range on the A3, the German variant. Everything else is literally the same. But that is... I would just go for the M109A2. Unless you're playing like 10v10s or something. Now in the tank tab, we have some cool things. We have the M728 CEV. So it's an assault gun, really good HE cannon basically, against infantry, which I might start using because it just seems really fun to use. Then we have the Jaguar 2, insane ATGM vehicle, And if you have seen my latest gameplay, me playing as the 5th Blinde, you can see that ATGM vehicles can be very, very useful. For 105 points, you get 12 TOW2s, which can clap. If it hits pretty much any, well, if it hits most of them, you will clap like 4 or 5 tanks, for sure. 65% accuracy and 25 AP on that bad boy. Really, really fun to use as well. You get 2 cards of the M1A1 Command, and 6 cards of the M1A1 Abrams. If you go for mid-veterancy, which I always recommend, you can get 6 times 4, 6, 12, 24. 24 tanks. That is insane. And then 2 cards of these, you know, that's 28 Abrams. Is my math even correct? 4, 8, 12, 24, yeah. That is pretty dang good. Like, you can turn this into kind of a weird armored, you know, it is literally called Armored Cavalry Regiment, but you can make it like, you know, a pure armored battle group, and you will have some different units that the 3rd Armored doesn't have, that you have here. For example, if we go into the Recon, we have the M1A1 ACAV. You can get 2 cards of these guys. 290 points, really expensive, but good optics. Now, the way that Eugen balanced this, and I have spoken to Eugen, is the stealth. It is bad stealth. Okay, so it's not going to be like those ninja recon tanks in Wargame. It's just a basic M1A1 that now has some recon capabilities. So if you just compare them both, stats-wise, like guns and everything, all basically the same. Now the M1A1 does have slightly higher accuracy because we outvetted it, but the ACAV, like gun and everything, is exactly the same. The only difference is the optics. It goes from mediocre to good, and that will be really useful when you do like a tank assault or, you know, a slow push with tanks up front. And you know, the ACAV will be your recon tank in that group of tanks, so it's really interesting to see that. And you can get 2 of those, which is pretty nice. In terms of recon infantry, lots of scouts. 2 cards of these guys, so you can get 18 scout units. You can get the LRS, which is a nice unit to have in a battle group with kind of mediocre infantry, or I should say bad infantry. We have the Humvee with the grenade launcher, the BGS, which I have never used, but this is something I would use as kind of flank security. I wouldn't use the dismount troopers. I would definitely rather use the BGS. You know, they're really going to be tripwire only, meaning they're gonna get into contact but not really be able to destroy much because they are disheartened. They are security units, reservists. But yeah, they only cost 40 points compared to 60. So, and then you can use these guys on the front line. Anyways, we have the Green Archer with excellent optics, which is nice. We have the OH-58C Scout and also the one with Hellfires. We have the Bradley Recon, so the CFV with the TOW2s once again. Very good optics and mediocre stealth. But now we go into some of the more kind of mixed up sections of this. We have the Fliegerfaust, which you usually only got with the German battle groups and also the US mechanized, and the Territorial Command suit, but now it's also in the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. So pretty much all NATO battle groups except for the French ones and the British ones get the Fliegerfaust. We also have the Stinger team, which I would recommend getting instead of those. PVADs, OH-58 and IHawk. Really nice selection of AA. If it had the Chaparrals, it would be the most OP battle group in terms of anti-air. I would, well, not the most OP, but you know, it will be way up there. Now, in terms of helicopters, another new unit, the Widowmaker. This is the AH-1FC Knight. Look at that, TOW2s. That is the main difference between that and a TOW Cobra. Now, in terms of general like stats on the bottom, you can also see that the Sea Knight has 10% ECM, which helps. If an AA piece has 50% accuracy, it drops down to 45% accuracy when it tries to, you know, target a Sea Knight. So that's how that works. In terms of weaponry, it's all the same except for having TOW2s. So 20 points for getting 4 TOW2s instead of 8 ITOs. That is something you have to take into consideration, but man, when a TOW2 hits you, you're gonna feel it. Okay, and you can get 2 cards of these. You can get 4 total, which is kinda nuts. Kinda nuts. Now in the air tab, something I love seeing. F-16 galore. We have the Fighting Falcon, the F-16 Seed, we have the F-16 Cluster, we have the F-16C with AT, with Mavericks, which is awesome, and we have the laser guided one as well. Look at that. I would just get all of them, to be honest. I would just do this. Just, you know, just to make it an F-16 battle group. maybe get an A10 or whatever. But speaking of A10, we have all 3 variants of it, except for the cluster one, I guess. We have the A10 Thunderbolt with the Mavericks, we have the A10 with the Mark 82s, and we have the A10 with rockets. Personally, I like the rocket version because the Gao 8 Avenger really is good enough to kill most tanks. Otherwise, I would just go for the AT. I don't recommend going for HE A10s because they're just way too slow and they will get shot down. But yeah, really kind of a fun selection of battle groups and units that have been added. I have already built one battle group here. I will add it to the Google Docs file in the description, or actually on the Discord. So if you go to the Discord and go to the chat called Saucy Battlegroups, you will find a code for this battle group in there as well. And I've kind of just built it according to what I think could work, but obviously I haven't really played around with it too much, so I will have to test it and see what happens. But it might be a good kind of platform for some of you that really aren't that good at building battle groups, or you're new to the game, and you can still, you know, play around with it and hop into some maybe skirmish battles against AI. In terms of sacrifices to other battle groups, the 3rd Armored lost the LRS, but that is basically the only thing. But, you know, those LRS were really good, so you might have to play a little bit differently in terms of your opener. So maybe use more snipers, or maybe get some infantry with the ACAVs, for example the Scouts, because the ACAV does have the recoilless gun, the 50 cal, and the M240, so that might be a good kind of a compromise for losing the LRS. But anyways, that said, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys back in the next one, where I will be looking at the 119th. That is a Soviet battle group with tons of tanks. Take care.